IVM.
The reDiscovery podcast is an IVM production. If you like this show, also check out IVM Likes, a show for your weekly dose of pop culture recommendations, whether it's books, movies, or TV shows by the folks in the IVM office.
In 2 seasons of the reDiscovery podcast, Ambika and Hoshna have taken us to nooks and crannies of the country to experience paths less traveled, understand vibrant cultures, and gorge on food they couldn't get enough of. This season, they introduce you to people and organizations who strive to make a difference in the way we experience and look at travel. This is the reDiscovery podcast.
Hi, I'm Ambika.
And I'm Hoshna.
And this is the reDiscovery podcast. So as you know, this season has been all about conservation and preservation of art, nature, culture. And in this episode, we're going to talk about a family in Goa, which traces its roots back 16 generations. And they're making this amazing effort to preserve their family's history, heritage, traditions, including this unique style of Ganpati celebrations, which we were a part of last year. And I mean, what's really cool is because family histories they sort of get lost along the way sometimes.
Yeah, especially in today's age when you have these nuclear families. I don't think many of us know anything beyond our grandparents or our great-grandparents.
Yeah. And as the grandparents are dying out, family stories don't get passed along, so we don't really know all the cool stories of what happened 100 years ago. And so this episode, we're going to talk about this one family and especially one person in this family who's made some great efforts to, put down all these oral histories so that they can be passed on for the next generation.
So every year during the monsoons, we try and do a road trip. And last year, we decided we're going to travel around Goa.
Because we love Goa.
Yeah, and I mean, we've been to Goa obviously many, many times, and but we've never really gone beyond the beaches. So our Goa trip is usually go to the beach, find a beach shack, plonk ourselves down there.
Eat some prawns.
Walk 4 steps to the beach, walk 4 more steps into the water. Like Ambika said, eat some prawns, drink some beer, and then, eat, sleep, repeat.
Yeah, I mean, that's like pretty quintessential Goa.
Yeah, so this year we decided we are doing Goa, but no beach.
Different.
Yeah, we're going to try and explore the other side of Goa. So we got into our little blue Brio and we headed out to Goa. We drove through villages, through paddy fields, saw parts of Goa which we'd never seen before through the interiors, and sort of try to learn more about the other side, the history, the culture of Goa. We saw a lot of amazing old Portuguese Goan houses. And we also, since we were going to be there in August, which was when Ganpati was happening, we wanted to see if we could see how Ganpati was celebrated in Goa.
Right, which is some parts are quite different from how it's celebrated in a big city like Bombay. It's definitely a lot quieter. There's not a whole lot of loud Bollywood music through the speakers. So we saw a couple of different Ganpati celebrations. And one celebration that we were a part of, which I'd mentioned, was with the Mandrekar family in the village of Mandrem, which is in North Goa.
Yeah, so the Mandrekar family comes from Mandrem. Like Ambika said earlier, they can trace their roots back to about 600 odd years.
Yeah, that's pretty far back.
And we visited their house during Ganpati, and I remember seeing this massive family tree up on the wall with, generations on it. And it was really pretty fascinating. So we thought to talk about a little bit more about the family. We'll get Zinnia Mandrekar.
Who's our guest. Hi, Zinnia.
Hi.
Thanks for coming down. And, we'll talk about it from the perspective of someone in the family. And Zinnia has spent a couple of years making a film about her family, tracing its history, talking to various members who are now not only in Goa and Bombay, but spread across parts of Karnataka and other places as well. And when we met her in Mandrem and we spoke to her about it, we thought this would be a great, idea to put down on our podcast. So here she is. Welcome, Zinnia.
Hi Ambika. Hi Hoshna.
So, why don't you tell us and our listeners a little bit about your project? I mean, because we mentioned your project and how you went around documenting everything. Why don't we start there? Yeah.
Okay, so basically, I made a documentary on my family's history and traditions and culture. We have a Mahalakshmi Devi idol at home. The film was about how having this idol at home has made the entire family come together through the years, through Ganpati celebrations, through Dasara celebrations. That's the reason why we even have our family tree at home. So the film really documents our entire living history. And the fun fact is that we're still writing that history,
Right.
There are generations, even today, we are an integral part of all the celebrations that still happen. You guys came for Ganpati, but there are many, many more.
So what got you interested in documenting this?
So basically, when I was a little younger, my granddad used to always tell us stories about this house in Goa. We'd been there, but every time, whenever we had...
Sorry, you live in Bombay, right?
Yeah, I live in Bombay. And every time we used to go for Ganpati, my granddad, used to tell us all these stories about when he visited the house when he was younger and the fun times he's had with his siblings, or about our family tree. He had this huge roll with all my uncles and aunts. At that time, there was no family tree put up in our house in Goa, so we were not as exposed. And after his passing, I realized that, the stories are dying with the generation. There was nobody to tell us anything anymore. And I was like, something needs to be done, to preserve our family's history, our family's culture, so that the future generations know where they come from, where they belong.
So that's really cool. I mean, we all, I think, hear these stories from our grandparents. And I mean, I know I've always wondered, once my grandparents are no more, I mean, I know a lot of stories, but I'm not going to remember all of these stories. So I think it's really cool that you actually went out and put it all down on paper, so to speak, or right now on video, because...
So how far back does this family tree go, for example?
1521 AD.
Wow, so that's pretty fast.
Yes,
that's during the Mughal time, by the way, to put it in context for people. Yeah.
I am generation 14, but we go back right up to generation
You're
1.
14, but there are 16 generations at the moment. So
yes.
there's little ones.
There
also.
are still...
Okay.
So it sounds like a pretty humongous task, right? I mean, to trace this back and to put it all together. So how did you start? I mean, where does one start if you have to do something like this?
Yeah, it was quite crazy. Actually, the first step was to talk to my family members, and they were really kicked about it. And everyone was so excited to, shell out their stories, whatever they had heard from their grandparents. So that is like father level for me. And then they gave us references and, but the thing is, one thing is to hear oral history, from your family. But the second thing is to verify it.
Right. Yeah.
So,
because some of these things are mixed up with like stories and legends and there was something we
and
heard.
Family politics.
Yeah.
So for me, that was the main thing. So we did go to Goa archives. See, if you go to Goa, you won't find any information before the 1700s, that is, before the Portuguese came in, because there are no written records. So
Okay,
we had
at
to
all?
go... No.
For
No.
about anything.
No
Oh.
land records, nothing.
Oh wow, that's cool. And you guys go back 200 years before that.
Because this family tree was maintained in our family,
Right.
by the different generations. So that's why we still have it. And there is actually, I came across this book. So if you're a Saraswat Brahmin, like I am, there's this book called the Konkan Akhyana, which was written in 1721. And I have a copy of that book. And that book actually mentions how our family came to Goa. And we were able to, I mean, what I heard from my grandfather was not just, a folklore story. It was actually written in... And why I go back to 1721? Because that's the closest book I have. So there has to be some truth to it than what I'm hearing
What is
today.
this book, though?
It's called Konkan Akhyana.
And it documents the Saraswat Brahmin families?
Yeah.
Okay.
All
so that's
over
pretty
the
cool.
Konkan belt.
Okay. So any other Saraswat Brahmin family can refer to
Yes,
that book?
absolutely.
Okay. And how far back does the book go?
The book was written in 1721, and the book mentions that 200 years before that, our family moved to Mandrim.
Okay.
So
you had
Can you tell us a little bit about that, about the history before, the
So
history?
they moved to Mandrim from where?
So they moved, so basically we're Gaud Saraswat Brahmins, and we were actually called Shenoys before the 1700s. We were not Mandrekars then.
Okay.
So what happens is, when the Saraswati River dries up, people started migrating towards the south, towards Goa, and they came in two batches. First batch of 66 families and second batch of 30 families. We belong to the second batch of 30 families, and together they formed 96 villages, which is Shanvi, which is Shenoy or Shanvi, you know, that...
I had a friend in school who was a Shenoy, so he's part of that.
Yeah.
Then that original 96, he would be able to also trace his
Yeah.
route back.
So
Wow.
any Saraswat Brahmin would be possibly from that 96 families, you're
Probably
saying?
the ones around the
No,
Konkan
the
belt.
Or
Shenoys.
the Shenoys.
The
Okay,
Shenoys,
okay,
whoever
okay.
were known as the Shenoys,
Okay.
they would, and then slowly, because in Goa there was no one ruler, there was a lot of upheaval and religious persecutions during that time. So our family slowly moved towards the north. They moved to Arpora, which is Hadfade, as it's mentioned in the book, and then later on came to Mandre in about 1521. The first person on our family tree is Sadashiv Shenoy. He was the first guy, and if you go to the village temples also, there is an idol that is for the Sadashiv Shenoy, because people pray to him as the Mool Purush, the first person who's come and started the village.
This
Of
is in
Mandre.
Mandre.
Yeah,
Oh,
in Mandre.
cool. Okay.
So there
okay.
are temples that you can go visit, and that's like the village
So
idol.
your family
Right.
was effectively the first ones
Yes.
in that village. They sort of
Yeah.
set up that village.
Yeah. And then we owned a lot of land. But then around the 1700s, what happened was, when the Savantwadi king took over the Pedne area, we got Deshki. We became the Desais, which means that you would handle all the accounting,
bookkeepers, right?
bookkeepers
Bookkeepers.
for the
Okay.
land. And that's how the name changed from Shenoy to Desai. But our family had the Mahalakshmi Devi idol at home.
Which
So
is
we
the
said-
idol that you still have in your
which
house.
we still
right.
do have.
So that idol itself is also now
Yeah, that's
the same one
yeah,
from back in the
yeah,
day.
yeah.
From 1521.
Yeah,
600 years old.
nearly, yeah.
Okay, pretty cool,
So, yeah, and then we were like, okay, we're not going to be Desais. We're going to be Dev Mandrekars. So we're called the Dev Mandrekars in Mandre. And so basically the formative families are called Vangards. Okay, so they are the formative families who...
What does Vangard mean?
Vangard
Is that a Marathi word?
I think it's a Sanskrit word, if
Okay.
I'm not wrong. And Vangards are basically the formative families of the village.
Of the village. Okay.
So there can be different families who come together and start the agriculture, start the temples. They build the village per se.
Okay.
So there are 5 Vangards in our village. Now, since we didn't take the name Desai, there was a part of the community who took Desai. So they became the first Vanguard because they were like linked to the kings and things like that. And we became the second Vanguard. So we're the second most important family in the village per se, in like all the celebrations even today. So
I remember talking to your dad when we'd visited Goa, and he was telling me that you all brought back at that time artisans into the village and people who did different work
Yeah.
skill sets,
Yeah.
and all of them were given land, and that sort of set up the village per se.
yeah, that's true.
So this would have been around the 1700s.
No, between 1500s
And
to
1700s.
1700s.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
where we're at.
So on that note, we're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Amit Verma, the host of the weekly podcast The Seen and the Unseen. In my show, I examine the seen effects and the unintended consequences of public policy and private action. I show how policies meant to help the poor often end up hurting the poor. I've done episodes so far on demonetization, GST, surgical strikes, immigration and MRP, and I will continue my forensic assault on the truth in the weeks to come.
Catch the show every Monday on the IVM Podcast app or any other podcasting app that you prefer. Or visit seenunseen.in for all the latest updates.
Welcome back to the reDiscovery podcast. So you mentioned about how your family now has spread. Of course, over the years, I mean, people do move. And there is a certain section of the family that's in Karnataka. So you went to visit them in
How did you
Karnataka?
track
How did you
them
find
now?
them? Yeah.
Actually, I had no clue about this, on the family tree, it just says that this person went to Karnataka, but that's about
That's
it.
where it ends.
That's where it ends.
That branch.
And then when I started doing the documentary and I started talking to my family members, it turns out that somebody said that, yeah, there is this guy in Karnataka. He's a sculptor. He's a renowned sculptor. And his surname is Ranjalkar Shenoy. That's all I had with me.
Was a surname.
Yeah.
And do you know where in like west, north, south, east?
This is close to Udupi.
Near Udupi. Okay.
Yeah.
So some starting point.
Yeah, some
You went
starting
with a
point.
placard basically and walked around Karnataka.
I need a sculptor.
Yeah. So I went and like Facebook research and like I found
Facebook.
it's the best. It's the best. And that's how I got to know some fellow who was a Ranjalkar Shenoy, and I was like, do you have the contact details of this guy? I need to go meet him. And that's how
So
I
was he
went.
surprised when you met him? I mean, how did it go? How did that conversation go?
Actually, more than him being surprised, I was surprised because he was telling me the same stories I've heard from my family for like all these
Yeah,
years.
and
And
that's so
there was
cool,
no
right?
connection between that guy
Ever
and
since
your
they'd
family.
left.
Like,
So
I mean, there is a connection. They keep coming, but none of us know about it.
Oh, okay.
So they come to Mandre every year to pay their respects, but they come at any time of the year. So
Okay, so you
it's
didn't
not
necessarily know who they
yeah.
were.
Yeah, who they were, where they come from, like nothing. We had no clue
that's
because
really
we're all
cool.
staying in Mumbai, And when we heard the same things, I was like, wow, there has to be a connection here,
Right.
So-
So some legends are not legends. They might have just been
Been-
real.
yeah, I know. I mean, it's just surprising, because you've not met this person. You're talking to them for the very first time and they're telling you the exact same thing, You're just zapped.
That's cool.
So do you have an idea of how large this family is now? I mean, the diaspora is, I'm assuming, spread all over the world.
Yeah, they're quite huge. They also have some 15 generations like us in
So that's the Karnataka branch.
Karnataka branch.
And then you've got the Goa branch, which now lives in Goa, Bombay, and wherever else.
yeah, in Bicholim in Goa.
Okay.
So that's a little smaller branch because they're still. So basically, what happened is the branch that went to Karnataka, they. So it is said that they prayed to the goddess, and she said, "Don't take the idol, take the kalash." So it's a kalash that they have put over there in their temple, and they believe that the power of the goddess is in that kalash in
Kalash
Karnataka.
It's a pot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Effectively, right?
Yeah.
It's a vessel to hold.
Yeah, like for all these pujas and all.
Right, yeah.
Little things.
Right.
So, so the kalash is what they have there, and they have the Devi's face, just the mukhota on it.
Okay.
But and they pray to that. But the ones that are in Goa, they believe that because we're so close to Mandre itself, they have not taken the kalash. They keep coming to our house to pay their respects to the goddess. So they're not that big a family because they're more still in Goa and but
Okay.
yeah.
But still, I'm sure the families are all pretty big because there's
Yeah.
16 generations on, and everybody assuming had 2 or 3 children.
Do you know all your cousins?
Quite a few of
Yeah.
them, yes. That's because all of us meet at Ganpati, like it's a lot of fun. We're like 60 to 80 of us in Mandre. Like we have, you guys witnessed it, you know, the singing sessions with like guitar and like harmoniums and everybody singing.
Yeah, it was
Like,
pretty
and-
fun.
Yeah, that was the fun part about. I mean, the whole Ganpati celebration was really cool.
It was
but
very different from
it was
what you
very
see in
different,
Bombay,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
Bombay,
very.
I mean, a Ganpati is of not only a house, it's of a building or a locality, and you'll see hundreds of people going and Dhol Baja and Munni Badnaam, and it's become a crazy thing, right? But here it was just so different. It was very intimate, very quiet, very personal, but it wasn't only a Ganpati celebration for your family, it was effectively for the village,
That's correct.
right?
Yeah, and I think this is the cool part of the celebration at the Mandrekar family is that all the villagers who have their own Ganpati come to the Mandrekar house with their Ganpati first and then go to the sea for the immersion. And I think this is something that's been going on for a long time,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's correct.
So why do they all come to the house? I mean, I can understand one is obviously because their fathers and their forefathers did it, so they are doing it. But there must be something else, right?
Basically, like I said, we have the Mahalakshmi Devi at home. So the Ganpati is not considered to be a family Ganpati. It's considered to be Goddess Mahalakshmi's Ganpati. And Goddess Mahalakshmi is revered by all the villages. You know? Even though it's a family deity, it's in our house. The house is open. People can come. People can pray. We leave it open to them. So basically all these Ganpatis from the village come to pay respects to Goddess Mahalakshmi and her Ganpati before going for Visarjan. Like you guys came and it was raining, so you got to see like just about 5 of them.
Yeah.
But there were times when there were like 30, 40 when we were much younger, and like the entire house used to be filled with like these lanterns and Ganesh idols all over.
All around the courtyard.
Yeah, all
It
around
sounds
the
really
courtyard.
beautiful.
Like, it was an amazing experience. Now, of course, it's like dwindled a bit because people have started keeping like 5-day Ganpatis or 10-day Ganpatis. So, it's lesser. But like there was a time when we were younger, it was amazing.
Even the way the idol is made is something that you all have sort of kept through the generations,
Yeah,
right?
pretty unique. I mean,
Tell us a little bit
pioneers
about
of the
that.
green Ganpati, right?
Oh, yeah, totally. So, basically, the Ganesh idol is completely biodegradable. What we do is the mud, the clay rather, that is used to mold the Ganpati is taken from these villagers called Ganesh Bhatlekars. Bhatle is area or farm, from their farm only. And then it goes to a sculpting family in the village. They're the Zinnia Mandrekars. So they also, they will sculpt it, and the sculpture is brought home where my uncle or someone from the Mandrekar family will paint it. So this has been happening for years.
Always somebody from the family will paint it,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
So the same families will collect the clay, the same families will build it, and the same
through
families
the generations,
will paint it. And that tradition has obviously continued.
That's correct.
And is the image the same every year, or do you all change it, or
It depends on the
It's the
painter.
same.
No, it's still the same. It's always the same.
Okay.
I mean, over the years, there have been minor changes.
वो
Like
थोड़ा बहुत skill set में भी फर्क पड़ता है.
like,
Not
I
everybody's
think-
a painter.
not minor changes, because in the documentary also you will see like photographs. Like you can see the difference because maybe this guy's father used to sculpt it before, so probably
of
it's
course.
a little different. But
The
it's
poor guy, if he's
always
not a
like,
good sculptor, then he's screwed. Na? He has to live up to that tradition.
oh yeah.
But I think over time you probably
Every year you have
improve
to do it.
a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as Zinnia was saying, we were there for this Ganesh celebration, and it's really nice. I mean, more than the fact that it was much quieter than it is in a city, but it was the fact that we saw all these family members come together and a lot of them were saying they only meet once a year, but they meet once a year during Ganesh, and we sort of were introduced to the Mandrekar family through a friend of ours in Bombay, who happens to be Zinnia's cousin, or maybe not. I mean, he could be Zinnia's uncle. We don't really know. They're like on the tree. They're quite far apart, but they're close. They've grown up together, and I think they may be like 6th cousin or something like that, right? Is what we figured. But they're like first cousins. They're like friends. They've grown up together. They spend their Ganpatis together, and so that's really the cool part of it. That even though you're so far apart on a family tree, I mean, I barely know my 3rd cousin, so forget 6th cousin. So I think that was kind of what was really heartening about this, is that all these guys are here together and everybody knows everybody, and there's all this singing and
the singing is not devotional songs.
No, it's
people are
very
playing
much,
the blues and all. So there's Johnny Be Good happening, and La Bamba happening, and Elvis happening, and there's one uncle playing a harmonium and the other one playing a guitar, and
Totally. No devotional songs happen.
So it was
there was a lot of
different.
Ganpati Bappa sort of fused into Elvis.
Yeah.
So that was really cool how that happened. And they made us feel really, I mean, we were very much part of the celebration and the family. It's not like, we were outsiders or anything. So that was really nice. I felt very much at home.
We welcome anyone and everyone who wants to be a part of the celebrations. There's everyone's a part of the big
and
fat
I mean, at
family
that point, I don't think you know also. Maybe I could be your family,
a new long lost
the
cousin.
new long lost cousin.
Maybe we'll find some roots of the family going to Chennai instead of
Yeah.
So all of this happens in the house. So the house is sort
in
of
the
at the
balcony is where they do the singing.
balcony.
It's called a balcony, right?
Yep,
yeah,
yep.
yeah.
So how old is the house itself?
The house was made in the 1700s.
Okay.
So say about 300 years from now. And so basically right now we have about 20 to 25 rooms, but previously there was a mezzanine floor and there were like rooms there as well. So we had about 50 rooms.
So at what point at one point the whole family would have been living in this house?
Yeah. So there are two sections to the house. I'm not sure if you guys would have noticed, but there's a section where there's this huge wall. Okay, there was one part of the house which was built in the 1700s.
Yeah, I think your uncle showed us how thick the wall was. I mean, that wall is thick.
But it looked like a defensive wall, like a fort wall.
Like an outside
because that's
wall.
the outside wall of the previous house.
Of the original house.
Yeah.
And then there was a new section was added.
That was
right?
added.
Yeah.
So that was added about 150 years ago. So that would have been mid 1800s or some early 1900s. That's the time the next section of the house that was built. But the thing is, I'm not sure how you guys felt. You guys should tell me actually how you guys felt when you entered the house.
No, it was fascinating. I mean, we love old homes.
We love old homes.
So you tell us a home is 400 years old, we'll say, come on, chalo, you must see this house.
We are suckers for this. Yeah. If you look at our blog, you'll see, I mean, anywhere where we can go and see an old home, Karnataka, I mean, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Gujarat, wherever, we are there. So I mean, I think we really like the fact that, I mean, these homes have, like you said, they're living pieces of history.
Yeah, there's so many stories within their walls. And you guys would have grown up there, right? So, I mean, the beach is so close. So, I remember watching in the documentary and one of your cousins saying that it felt like our own private beach. Ghar idhar hai and there's a beach and only we are there.
I have gone and told my friends I own Mandre Beach. So I'm a Mandrekar, I own Mandre Beach. So yeah, we've done that. But when you enter the house, Mandre has changed so much over the years. Like even from the 1990s to now, when I had first been there, and today you have like tourists all over. You have like
there's some hotels and stuff. Right, yeah.
But as soon as you enter the house, for us, the time just stands still. Like it's just the house for us has this timeless appeal. That this house existed so many years back.
Right.
It's going to exist now when I'm there, and even after I go, this house is going to still be there and it's going to be the way it is, because our family has been taking great efforts. We have a trust which was formed by my grand uncles, Baburao Mandrekar, which maintains the house, does all the rituals and all the donations, and the complete maintenance of the house is done by
and the trust
Mandrekar
is
family.
Funded by the family.
Yeah, by the family. We each pay like a membership fee, and which is used for the house and everything. So that's how everything is maintained. So just the fact that this house is going to be there even after me, it's something bigger than who I am. It's just
that's nice. That's really nice. Yeah. So you sort of followed your grand uncle's footsteps. He did something to hold the family together by making the trust, and now you've made this really cool video so the next generations can hear these stories and understand where they sort of came from. Which is really what we wanted to bring across was preserving these histories and pieces of our country's heritage. So Zinnia's video that we've been talking about is on YouTube, and it's called
Ekatva,
which means
oneness.
So for more interesting stories, you can check out the earlier seasons of the reDiscovery podcast on the IVM website. Also, check out our blog at reDiscoveryproject.com, and you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, the usual. Thanks for listening.
Happy travels. For updates about our show and other awesome shows, follow IVM on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at IVM Podcasts. You can also listen to our show on the IVM website, app, and any other podcasting app you may prefer.
He bends down to test the warm water for his bath. He comes here to quench his thirst for a hot shower and some podcasts. You can witness how he enjoys having other people talk about cool stuff in his bathroom. Indeed, it helps him with his loneliness. You can find more of his species on ivmpodcast.com, your one-stop destination where you can check out the coolest Indian podcasts. Happy listening.